Did you know that ancient Greek philosophers were the first scientists? They didn't have microscopes or computers, but they still managed to make incredible discoveries about the world around them. Today we will take a journey back in time to see how science began and how these early scientists changed the world. But before we start our journey, let me ask you a question. What is science? Science is the study of the natural world through observation and experimentation. It is a way of understanding the world around us, but do you know when and how it started? Our story begins in ancient Greece around 600 BC. At that time, people did not understand how the world worked. They believed that the gods were responsible for everything that happened. But some people started to question this. They wanted to understand the world without relying on the gods. These people were called natural philosophers. They were not scientists yet because they did not use the scientific method, but they were the first to try to understand the world in a rational way. One of the most famous natural philosophers was Thales. He was born in Miletus, a Greek city on the coast of modern Turkey. Thales was born around 624 BC and died around 546 BC. He is considered the first philosopher in history. That means he was the first person to try to understand the world using reason rather than relying on myths and legends. Thales was interested in many things, such as mathematics, astronomy, and physics. He made many important discoveries, such as the fact that the Earth is a sphere. He also predicted a solar eclipse that occurred in 585 BC. This was an important moment in history. It was the first time that a natural philosopher had predicted a scientific event. It showed that the world could be understood through observation and reason. Thales was followed by other natural philosophers such as Anaximander and Anaximander. They continued to explore the mysteries of the natural world and made new discoveries. However, it was not until the time of Aristotle that science really began. Aristotle was born in Stagira, a small village in ancient Greece. His father was a doctor and his mother was the daughter of a king. This gave Aristotle a privileged upbringing and allowed him to pursue his interests. When he was 14 years old, he went to Athens to study at the famous Academy of Plato. There he studied philosophy, mathematics, and science. He spent 20 years at the academy learning from the best teachers of his day. In 335 BC, Aristotle left Athens and went to the city of Babylon. There he studied astronomy and mathematics. He was invited by King Ptolemy I, who was the ruler of Egypt at that time. Aristotle stayed in Babylon for 2 years, during which he learned a lot about the cultures of the East. After returning to Greece, he settled in the city of Atarn. There he taught many students, including the famous scientist Archimedes. Aristotle was very successful as a teacher because he was able to explain complex ideas in a simple and clear way. His students loved him and respected him. Unfortunately, Aristotle's life was cut short by jealousy. Some people were envious of his success and wanted him dead, so they poisoned him. Aristotle died in 322 BC at the age of 62. Despite his short life, Aristotle made many important contributions to science. He is considered one of the greatest scientists of all time. So, what exactly did Aristotle do to deserve this title? Well, let's find out together. First of all, Aristotle was the first person to use the scientific method. This is a way of understanding the world based on observation, hypothesis, and experimentation. Aristotle used this method to make many important discoveries. For example, he was the first person to classify animals into different groups. He also made important contributions to biology, physics, and astronomy. Aristotle was also the first person to use logic to understand the world. This means that he used reason and critical thinking to make his arguments. He was not satisfied with simply accepting what other people said. He wanted to understand the world for himself. This is why Aristotle is considered the father of science. He used observation, reason, and logic to understand the world around him. But Aristotle's contributions to science don't end there. He was also the first person to keep a scientific journal. This is a record of his observations and experiments. Aristotle's journal helped future scientists to build on his work. It showed them what he had discovered and how he had done it. He used observation, reason, and logic to understand the world around him, and he kept a record of his work so that others could learn from him. But Aristotle's contributions to science don't stop there. He was also the first person to teach science. That is, he shared his knowledge with other people. He believed that science was not just about making discoveries, it was also about sharing that knowledge with others. Aristotle taught many famous scientists, including Archimedes. This is why Aristotle is considered the father of science. He used observation, reason, and logic to understand the world around him, and he shared his knowledge with other people so that they could learn from him. It is important to remember that Aristotle lived in ancient Greece, long before modern scientific instruments were invented. He did not have a microscope or a telescope, but he still made important discoveries in biology, physics, and astronomy. This is why Aristotle is considered the greatest scientist of all time. He made important discoveries without the help of modern technology. But how exactly did Aristotle make his discoveries? Well, let's find out. Aristotle was a very curious person. He asked a lot of questions about the world around him. For example, he wondered why the sky was blue or why water boiled. He did not accept the answers that people gave him. He wanted to find out for himself. This is why Aristotle is considered the father of science. He was curious and wanted to understand the world around him. To find out the answers to his questions, Aristotle made observations. He watched what happened around him and recorded his observations in a journal. He also conducted experiments. He tried to repeat what happened in order to find patterns and make predictions. He was also the first person to use logic to understand the world. This means that he used reason and critical thinking to make his arguments. He was not satisfied with simply accepting what other people said. He wanted to understand the world for himself. But Aristotle's contributions to science don't stop there. He was also the first person to write about science. That is, he wrote down his observations, experiments, and conclusions in books. Aristotle wrote many books about science, including the first book on biology. He shared his knowledge with other people through his writing. In conclusion, Aristotle was the first scientist because he used observation, reason, and logic to understand the world around him. And he wrote about science so that even more people could learn from him. Without Aristotle, science as we know it today would not exist. He laid the foundations for scientific thinking and method, which are still used by scientists today. So, next time you look up at the stars or touch a plant, remember Aristotle, the man who first taught us to wonder about the world around us. Now it's your turn. What do you think makes Aristotle the first scientist? How has science changed the world? We have been exploring the origins of science, starting from the ancient Greeks and ending with Aristotle. If you liked this story, you might also enjoy another story we created about the ancient Babylonians and their astronomical discoveries. It's an amazing journey through time filled with fascinating facts and figures. You can watch it here. And if you're still hungry for more, we've got plenty more stories about the history of science, the great scientists, and their discoveries. Just click here and get ready to be amazed. Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe so you never miss an exciting episode. See you next time. Thanks for watching.